And of course, when I'm solo casting, I have to cast a goddamn PvP. Aye, aye, aye. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide LE. Again, we haven't been able to cast any of the new maps today. Shaking my head. Come on, people. Make it happen. We have the Polish Protoss. He is blue, representing Team Exxon. It is Gerald. Gerald, if you will. And spawning in the top right hand corner of Oxide LE, we have the South Korean Protoss player. He is red, representing Team NV. It is NightMare. Oh my, and these guys already switching things up a little bit here, as NightMare is going for that low ground wall with his initial pylon and gateway. Meanwhile, Gerald playing a little bit more safer, a little bit more standard, if you will, opening up with his wall on the high ground on top of his ramp. So this does typically signify that NightMare is the one who wants to be a little bit more economic. He does want to throw down his Nexus a lot sooner and, you know, establish it. But of course, it does leave him a little bit vulnerable to stuff like this. Gerald does throw down his pylon. We are most likely going to see a Cybernetics core being thrown down as well later on, just to delay the natural as long as possible. Meanwhile, NightMare does go across the map and he is scouting the main base as well as the natural, does confirm, hey, the pylon is here, you know, as a part of the ramp, checks the gases, make sure that there's nothing crazy going on, especially because it's a PvP, like this is where, you know, where the most the most amount of nonsense can occur. So you want to be safe, you want to be scouting your opponent, as Gerald is right now as well. Does check the main base, forces a zealot out. That's another benefit of going for this pylon block. Again, ideally players, they don't want to make a zealot at all. You want to skip that entirely and go for, save your resources, go for a straight into a stalker or an adept. So yeah, NightMare was forced to make that zealot, and pretty shortly we should see a block. Likewise, NightMare did the same thing, pylon and a cybercore. There it is, cybercore was thrown down. So both players being really cheeky, just delaying each other's natural expansions for as long as possible. And we do see the Stargate is on the way for NightMare. What's important is that it is a part of the wall and it is in range of the Cybercore. The Cybercore actually was able to spot that Stargate being built. I say Cybercore, but also the probe that threw it down initially. So Gerald is fully aware of what the tech is. I mean, he's even double checking, you know, with his probe in the main base, even sees a shield battery in the main mineral line of NightMare. Meanwhile, Gerald is actually the first player to throw down his expansion. And a lot of that is because Gerald committed to building the Cybercore. Meanwhile, NightMare cancelled his Cybercore, as we do see that it was not killed, it was cancelled, so it was dealt with a little bit faster. Ooh, meanwhile, does he get in? He does not. The Adept does attempt to get into the main base, but it was denied by that shield battery. And what's important is that, unlike Gerald, NightMare doesn't know what tech Gerald is going for. He hasn't been able to get a scout off. He hasn't been able to get into the main base. He doesn't know that, hey, there is no tech. Like, it's just a gateway at home. And there we go. That is because the Twilight Council will be on the way for Gerald. Gerald's going to be headed towards, I imagine, Blink Stalkers. We'll see if he's a little bit more cheeky and decides to go for something along the lines of... Oh my god. almost wasn't there in time, but we'll see if he decides to throw down a Dark Shrine instead. That is also quite possible, but unlikely. The Oracle is diving in. There is a shield battery. Again, Gerald knew that it was an Oracle first, so this Oracle won't find much damage at all, actually. Oh my god. Oh my god. I would argue a little bit of mismicro there by NightMare. Because NightMare knows that he got scouted, he should have gone in and thrown down a Stasis Ward instead to actually deal some damage instead of, you know, just doing nothing. So it is a bit of a shame. Ooh, meanwhile, the Oracle was caught out in the center of the map by the Stalkers of Gerald, so already losing a little bit of health. So Gerald coming out a little bit on top so far, and ooh, I did not expect this. After that Stargate, we did see NightMare did go for a Twilight Council, and he in fact is the one going for a Dark Shrine. Oh boy. And that's scary. That's terrifying. Right now, Gerald is doing a really good job at dealing with the initial Oracle. Like, it's great, you know, he's even expanding, he's taking a third base, but what matters is the detection. And the fact that right now there is 0 detection. He does have a forge, so he can throw down some cannons, and he does have a robo on the way, so he can chrono add an observer. But the thing is that, like, all of these things are like ifs, right? Like, he doesn't have any detection right now. So hopefully he does get some, otherwise he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Right now, Gerald, he hasn't been able to go into the main base again for a scout. He has neglected making some sentries for hallucinated scouts, so he's in the dark right now. There is a proxy here to the right hand side, and it looks like these stalkers, they will not spot it. Ah, they were so close. They were so close, but they turn around instead. They are here to deal with the Oracle, which I don't blame them. Thankfully for Gerald, an observer does pop out, so Gerald does have detection here at his natural base. So even though a DT will be morphed in, it's okay. It's not the worst thing. It's not the worst scenario. There it is. The DT is getting into the main base. It will sneak all the way in, but it reveals itself. Oh my god. Okay, Gerald's kind of needlessly pulling the boys, but, you know, he just wants to be safe, wants to make sure he doesn't lose anything, and he will not. He loses 1 probe, and that is all she wrote. Nice defense there by Gerald. Some lost mining time, but by no means did that Dark Shrine pay for itself. Not yet. Meanwhile, that third is up and running. The third is still on the way for NightMare, so honestly, I would say that Gerald is in a better position right now, right? He defended beautifully against the Oracle, he defended against the Dark Shrine, and he was the first player to expand. So right now, he's sitting pretty good. When it comes to upgrades, we're equal. 1-1 is on the way for both players. The big difference is that we do have Charge on the way for NightMare, but it only just started. And what's important is that Gerald did just make his Warp Prism, so with this Warp Prism, he's looking to be aggressive across the map. Not if he loses it though. Ooh, we do see Gerald does blink forward, but so does NightMare. NightMare, he does get the War Prism. I thought Gerald was going to maneuver it to safety. He did move it over to the left-hand side, but he still left it exposed. With that, he is forced to remake it, make another War Prism, and that will delay this push. Regardless, Gerald is going across the map, being as aggressive as possible, but he has to be careful because of the defender's advantage. We got a shield battery, we got stasis, we got a sentry for force fields. Like, it's gonna be so difficult to break this location. It would have been key there to hit that timing, but oh god, delayed for so long Gerald was. And with that, NightMare is able to defend. He's almost fully saturated on 3 bases. Still has that proxy, and he does warp in 2 adepts across the map, looking to sneak into the 3rd base of of Gerald. Meanwhile, Gerald is the first player to expand. So again, he missed the timing. He's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to kill you. I have to instead expand, right? You know, try and get ahead economically. Meanwhile, oh god, the adepts do come in, only get a handful of workers. Unfortunately, this proxy still hasn't been scouted, but I spoke too soon because finally the War Prism does reveal it. And with that, there we go. Gerald is responding. He should finally clean this up, and that will mean it'll be a lot more difficult for NightMare to harass across the map. On top of that, we do have +2 on the way for Gerald. Dark Shrine did finish up for him. We'll see if it does anything. It is very late, all things considered. Detection should be in place for NightMare. As I quickly do check the units of NightMare, he actually does not have an observer. That's a little bit worrying. Not going to lie, there we go, an observer is on the way. Meanwhile, the stalkers of NightMare do get caught out by Gerald. Gerald able to take out the majority of them. Meanwhile, that War Prism, I'm still waiting for him to dive in for a couple of DTs. Instead, Gerald's coming out on top in that trade. There we go. Finally, the War Prism does decide to go into the main base to harass and warp in a couple of units. Meanwhile, enough time has passed where NightMare finally does have an observer. It is with his main army, but because it's with his main army, like, it is a little bit out of position. There we go. 4 DTs do morph into the main base, forces a recall. Ooh, and with that, these ETs will be cleaned up. They are trying to split up and, you know, again, trying to deal as much damage as they can. But it looks like these 2 DTs in the natural will be dealt with. But because he forced the recall, the army is out of position, and that does mean that these stalkers will be able to deny this 4th base. Are we going to see a cancel? Beautiful, but oh my god. So the 2 DTs in the natural were dealt with, but the 2 DTs in the main base were actually left alone. I did not think that that would happen, and 17 probes went down in the main. That's crazy. That's it. That should not have happened. The detection was here. NightMare, he invested in that recall, and he messed up. He messed up in the defense, and now Gerald is looking so good. He dealt all that damage, killing all those probes, and he denied the 4th base. As long as he's able to defend this counterattack, he's going to be perfectly fine. But to be fair, this counterattack does have a lot of potential. We have 3 Immortals here with the main army. Like, that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. Meanwhile, Gerald's main army is just gateway units. He has been neglecting his Immortals. He only has 1 right now, and it's looking so exposed. So if NightMare did go for some kind of attack, like, there is still some kind of benefit in his main army. But we do see the big thing is the difference in supply. Gerald is just ahead by so much. Sure, his army may have a little bit less finesse, but like just the pure numbers side of things is insane, and that is because of that 4th base of having 4 bases up and running, just pumping out as many units as possible. The production is just crazy for Gerald, and with that, Gerald, he's close to maxing out. Meanwhile, ooh, NightMare, he does put the main army. He knows it doesn't matter. As Gerald does blick on forward, he is trying to focus down the Archons and the Immortals. The Zealots, they do clash against each other, and NightMare just doesn't have enough. He does lose 1 of his Immortals. Ooh, he does barely keep his War Prism alive, and with that, with the Shield Battery, with the defensive Warpins, it looks like NightMare is just barely able to push Gerald back. Oh, things are looking scary. Things are looking very scary there. Gerald tried to focus down the War Prism of NightMare, but he wasn't able to. Because NightMare was able to keep his War Prism alive, he was able to micro his Immortals and keep them alive as well. There was a lot of back and forth going on there, but very well done there by NightMare. Because he was able to defend, he gets his 4th up, and over time, he will be able to catch up. He will be able to close the gap. Oh boy, but that time is not here yet, as the Stalkers of Gerald, oh, it looks like he tried to blink into the main base. Meanwhile, he did lose his War Prism, but the DTs did make it in. Where's the detection? Okay, there's a cannon, forces a recall. Ooh, at the same time, the Stalkers are still here for Gerald. Gerald, he is up in upgrades. He has +3 as opposed to the +2 of NightMare. Oh, no, the misclick. Oh god, clicking on the rocks does expose his Stalkers, and he does lose, what, 3, 4, almost 5 Stalkers there for free. Oh, even more. Oh my god. Oh my god. Gerald with the mispositioning, with being outpositioned, I would say, does lose a lot of Stalkers there on the retreat. And the supplies are equal now. Sure, Gerald is ahead in terms of the economy. He does have the greater economy, he does have the better upgrades, and he will have disruptors, but you know what? He doesn't have disruptors yet. And here we go, NightMare is pushing in. There we go, the first 2 disruptors do come out, and the disruptor shots are going to be key here in the defense for Gerald. And we'll see how good they are. The disruptor shots, they do go off, and oh, they do land on an Archon though. Oh, and on some of his own Zealots. Not the best shots there, but it looks like he has enough Archons to just power his way through. There is a bit of a warp-in of Zealots, but Zealots really what you want against Archons, as they are going to go down. But you know what? They're buffering enough. This is looking kind of close here for NightMare, but again, NightMare, he's running out of steam. He only has Stalkers. His Archon does fall. And now it's just Zealot Stalker against what little army Gerald has. Oh my god, but here come the disruptors. The disruptors, they do come in. 1 does not land, the 2nd doesn't land either, and with that, every single worker and this 3rd base will go down. NightMare, he did end up fighting beautifully here outside the natural of Gerald. And again, those disruptor shots, they just did not land. The 2 that did land, landed on Archons. Yo, Archons, they can tank disruptor shots for days. When I say that, they can tank 1. Oh god, so Gerald's just not really being able to control his disruptors or land the disruptor shots that he really did want there. He's relying a lot on them, which is what's a little bit concerning, because again, like, disruptors, they are the great equalizer in both ways. Disruptor shots, if they land, they can swing a battle in your favor, and if they miss, they swing the battle in your opponent's favor. It's oh boy, it's kind of coin flippy in that way. Obviously there is skill involved in landing the shots, but like, if you don't land them, then F's in the chat. Here we go. We do have 5 disruptors in the main army of Gerald. Meanwhile, NightMare is maneuvering around. Ooh, one of these disruptors is exposed. He doesn't go for it. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, the disruptor shot does not land. Meanwhile, we do have a disruptor here in the main base. Does only land with an Archon. It does tank the shot. Meanwhile, another disruptor was taken out. The shots are going off. The Archons are falling, but all the workers in the natural are dead, mate. Is it going to be worth it though? Because it does look like the army of Gerald here is a little bit greater. The disruptor shots are landing. The reinforcements are coming in. It's just pure Zealot and DTs. Yo, does Gerald have detection? Okay, he does. Oh boy, actually that's the detection of NightMare. So the DTs could deal a little bit of damage here, but it looks like Gerald has regained control of his main base and his natural. He did not lose his natural nexus. He was able to defend just barely and push away NightMare. Ay, ay, ay. What's important is that Gerald was able to keep the majority of his disruptors alive. I believe he lost 2 disruptors in that fight, but again, he was able to keep the majority alive, so I guess it's worth it. I guess it's okay. I'm just worried for him a little bit. Like, he needs another base. He needs to retake one of these bases soon. Because NightMare was able to claw himself back into this. Thankfully for Gerald, NightMare still doesn't have +3. He has been neglecting his upgrades and been tunnel visioning a little bit. So Gerald still has that advantage going for him, but he has to be careful. He has to be oh so very careful. Ooh, does find the main army with his stalkers. One shot, doesn't land, it does get wasted. He's still got 4 more shots. And right now, NightMare's just posturing. He's just containing his opponent to 4 bases, and now NightMare is the one expanding and looking to be ahead in terms of those nexuses. Nexi even. Oh god, like, I'm worried for Gerald. Gerald has been doing so well this game, so well, but NightMare has just done a very good job at getting himself back into this in these fights. Meanwhile, he does lose the War Prism, which is pretty big, to be honest. NightMare is forced back, but defensively, like with shield batteries and with overcharge, he should be fine. And just like that, Gerald is forced back, forces an overcharge as well. NightMare, he does dive back in. Ooh, we'll see if his army does get caught out. He does blink back, but the offensive blink does come out from Gerald. A lot of stalkers are going down for NightMare, and he doesn't have disruptors to, like, you know, fall back on. He only has these gateway units. He does have a couple of shield batteries. Overcharges are being used. Ooh, and the disruptor shots are landing. Oh my god, they land on everything. NightMare's army just falls apart. And Gerald finally, these are the disruptor shots he's been looking for the entire game. These are the purification novas that he has wanted, but DTs are warped in. But there is detection. Gerald, he did not fall behind in that respect. He was ready for the DTs. He was ready with his observer. GG gets called. And Gerald takes game number 1. Wow. I was so worried. Gerald was ahead for the majority of that game. He was ahead solidly, and then it was slowly slipping away from him. NightMare was fighting better and better, but in the end, Gerald was still able to hold on, maintain that fight, that game. He did it. Pulled it off. Oh my god, Jim, please. I just messaged him, mate, you gotta join, man. Every time I gotta invite him. It's so close every time, but here we go. We are getting into game 2. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Romanticide LE, we have the Polish Protoss. He's up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. Representing Team Exxon, it is Gerald. As a reminder, he is our ESL Open Cup number 65 Americas champion. He won last week, maybe looking to do so again. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Romanticide LE, we have the South Korean Protoss player. He is red, representing Team NV. It is NightMare. And mate, NightMare, what's going on? It's looking to be his NightMare right now. He's a Korean player. He was poised to go all the way to the finals today to meet Solar, but he's being stopped by Foreigner. My god, NightMare, what's going on? Code S player. Can't even do it in a weekly. To be fair, Gerald is an incredibly strong player. He's a little bit in the dark, but I cannot wait for DreamHack because there are players like Gerald who have been grinding heavily these past 4 months in 2021, and Gerald has improved so much in that time. He is one of the best Protoss players in Europe right now, and he's showing that week after week. He's able to take down people like MaxPax, like Nina. Like, these are impressive feats, especially MaxPax, right? A lot of people were looking at MaxPax last year like, oh my god, he's popping off. Meanwhile, Gerald popping off right alongside him. So we'll see how far he can go this week. I'm looking at him and I'm feeling them vibes. Meanwhile, players are being a little bit cheeky. Oh my god, and Gerald, he locked in the probe with his own probe and killed it. One probe already falling for NightMare. What a cheeky move. Does he cancel the pylon? There he goes. He does cancel, does escape with his own probe. But what is scary and what is terrifying is the second pylon of NightMare is across the map. And right now, Gerald has no idea. Gerald sees both gases were taken, and if he does go back home through the center of the map, he will scout this. And it is so important that he does. Oh my god, no, he turns around! He doesn't go back home! Oh no, he sees nothing. He's trying to look for a proxy. This is the obvious location, right on the other side of this mineral wall, but he has not seen it yet. And this is NightMare being incredibly aggressive with 3 gateways looking to just apply pressure with stalkers across the map. Thankfully, Gerald is not neglecting his stalker production. He has 2 already. He's working on another 2, so he will have a decent force. He should, there we go. We also have a shield battery here on the low ground, a second pylon on the high ground. He knows something is up, especially because there is no natural base. And yeah, he does confirm that the stalkers are out here for NightMare. Oh boy, and NightMare, he throws down a Nexus, looking to expand. I guess he's not really looking to commit too hard with this, as so far we do have going to be 3 stalkers, going to be 5 out here for NightMare, but NightMare, he's spending a lot of time dealing with this probe. I don't blame him at all. Like, he does finally deal with the probe, and now he can focus on his aggression. We'll see what he can get done. Warp Gate has completed. There we go. In total, we have 8 stalkers for NightMare, as opposed to the 4 stalkers of Gerald. Gerald is working on his Immortal, and when the Immortal does pop out, like, he will be able to use that to defend quite nicely. We have a Sentry on the way, so force fields are available. Same with, oh my god, what's it called? The shield. Just, it slips my mind. I never say it. Oh boy, but here we go. NightMare is pushing into the natural base with all his stalkers. He has enough to 2-shot. 1-shot even. Oh my god, doesn't even matter if you have a shield battery. Nice force field though. So with that, Gerald is able to cut the army in half and deal with half the stalkers. But is that going to be enough? Oh, it looks like just barely. He's able to warp in 2 more stalkers of his own, and now he's almost equal in the stalker count. On top of that, he does have his own Immortal. He also has Overcharge available because the Nexus did finish, and with this, Gerald should be able to hold. Oh my god, but NightMare, he's committing to this. He warped in another wave, another round of stalkers, has sentries as well. This is still scary for Gerald. Oh, the dance. Here we go, 2 more stalkers being warped in. Like, oh god, NightMare, he is just unrelenting. He has enough to 1-shot again, so Gerald has to be so careful. Force field does get used, and the sentry does get isolated and picked off. Oh god. And here we go, he's just continuing to warp in across the map. Gerald behind this is being a little bit cheeky. We do have a Dark Shrine on the way, but he has to survive for that Dark Shrine to really kick in. He also has 2 Immortals, and with 2 Immortals, yo, that's a lot of Stalker volleys if NightMare wants to snowball. So I think he has met his match. He sees this, he's like, oh my god, I gotta back off. Meanwhile, yo, Gerald is on top of things. He is on top of that wall. It does go down, so the depths do not get into the main. And it's so important that Gerald, he stays on top of this wall. He has to make sure that the Dark Shrine does not get scouted. The Dark Shrine is a win condition right now. Like, there is 0 detection. The only detection that NightMare is going to have is if he gets a Stargate and an Oracle for Revelation. But if he sends his Revelation across the map, or his Oracle across the map, then it's going to be disastrous for NightMare. On top of that, if you warp in enough DTs and if you split them up enough, like, an Oracle isn't going to matter because a Revelation is only going to hit 1 DT at a time. And on top of that, he's not even making an Oracle, he's making a goddamn Phoenix. Oh god. But there is also still danger out here for Gerald. Gerald, he gets out of position a little bit, and now his Stalker's going to be caught out. 1 Stalker goes down, another Stalker so close, only 2 shots away. Oh, Gerald, let's keep going. Oh god, he stopped moving, and because of that, he's going to lose another round of Stalkers at the same time. It's because he was distracted. The Adepts, they do get into the main base. Yo, and with that, he scouts the Dark Shrine. Worst case scenario for Gerald. He not only lost his Stalkers across the map, but he is also gets scouted, and he's losing workers in his main. Here comes the DT. Here comes the DTs, but you know what? It's too late. Oracle is on the way. Or is it too late? How much damage can be done? The DTs are slashing away at the natural and the main base. As I was saying before, the Oracle only has 1 Revelation. It can only reveal 1 DT at a time, and damage is being done. There we go. 1 Revelation does get used. This DT will get cleaned up, but meanwhile, there is still a Dark Templar in the natural base, just slashing away at this pylon, denying all of this mining, keeping NightMare on 1 base economy. Ooh. And honestly, like, without those DTs, things would have been disastrous for Gerald. Oh god, things were not looking good at all. But now, thanks to the DTs, he's able to expand. He's working on a 3rd base. His main army is looking pretty solid as well. You know, we got a nice defensive position with 3 shield batteries at the natural and a cannon. We got 2 Immortals. We are looking good. Here we go. That DT is looking to slip into the main base. There should be detection here. Yeah. There's an observer. Thank God. I say that the DT actually slips by. Unfortunately, it does a move here on the ramp. It honestly could have slipped into the main base, but it will be dealt with. At the same time, the Oracle of NightMare is across the map. There is a cannon in the main. Nothing really here at the 3rd base though. So the probes are under threat. 2 probes do go down. Oh god, 3, 4 probes. Oh my god, because at the same time we got some Phoenixes in the natural base as well. Gerald completely out of position. Finally does take out the Oracle, and he should clean up these Phoenixes, but god, they're just getting so much damage done. Gerald, he's falling apart a little bit. I mean, to be fair, I kind of understand. I do know that in Europe it is quite late. Gerald, he's playing at what, like 3 a.m, almost 4 a.m. in the morning, like, so it's not the best time for him. But oh god, you gotta be on point here. You made the decision to stay up for ESL Americas. We'll see if he has the endurance, the fortitude to maintain his composure and keep up with someone like NightMare. Once again, we do have the robotics bay on the way for Gerald, so he will be working towards those disruptors once again, just like game 1. Also, Gerald has a couple of other advantages. Gerald already finished +1. He's working on +2 attack. Meanwhile, NightMare only just now starting +1 on his own forge. So NightMare falling behind in terms of the upgrades. Not just the upgrades, the economy, the tech as well. Immortals only just now coming out. So Gerald, just like in game 1, has all these advantages going for him, but it may not matter because in the end it may just come down to the engagement, not just the engagement, but the positioning of the 2 armies. Oh boy, we'll see. As right now, NightMare is just scouting. He's just checking to see if there is a fourth base. Meanwhile, finally, Gerald will clean up this gateway in the center of the map. And that actually puts NightMare on edge a little bit. He's like, oh my god, is the army pushing out? Oh god, I need to warp in. I need to make sure I'm on top of the ramp just in case his army does catch me off guard. And, oh my god. Is this what we want? Gerald is not going for disruptors. He is making Colossus with extended thermal lance. Huh. Huh. I don't think this is good. Because NightMare is making disruptors. Like, if we were in game 1, this would make more sense, because NightMare, he stayed on a gateway focused composition. He had a bunch of charge lots, he had a bunch of stalkers. But here in game 2, and he does get revealed by the Haluk, he's going for double robo production, double disruptors. And finally, Gerald sees it, and there we go. You need to switch into disruptors, mate. Colossus are not what you want right now. Oh god. I fear for Gerald's life. These Colossus could have been disruptors. Like, finally the disruptors are on the way, because he realizes his mistake. He realizes what he's up against, but I don't know if it's... We'll see. We'll see. He's applying pressure here at the fourth base. So far, he's doing a good job at dodging disruptor shots, but it does mean that it's so difficult to really commit to an attack. Here we go. He's diving in with 3 Colossus. Yo, the aggressive blink forward on top of every single disruptor. He focuses every single one of them down. Oh my god, not a single disruptor shots lands. But doesn't matter. Even though he's done a really good job at focusing down the robo units, like the pure gateway army of NightMare is just too strong, and he pushes Gerald back. Ay, ay, ay. And now every single Colossus falls as well. Meanwhile, Disruptor does go off. Oh my god, and it does connect beautifully in the center of NightMare's army. Beautifully done. With that, Gerald will be able to hold on. He does force NightMare back. If it wasn't for that Disruptor shot, then NightMare would have had so much momentum going his way. He would have kept pushing into the fourth base, put it under threat. But Gerald was just barely able to hold on thanks to his Disruptor. God, MVP. Meanwhile, NightMare, he rotates over to the north side of the map. Unfortunately, Gerald, he doesn't have any vision here. He had no idea, so the army finally reveals itself at the third base. Gerald completely out of position. He's forced to maneuver his entire army over. And, oh god, his robo is so exposed. Ooh. Purification over lands, does get one of the disruptors of NightMare. NightMare still has 2 shots left, sorry. 1 shot remaining now. The robo does fall, so now Gerald is down to 1 robo production, 1 disruptor at a time. And Gerald, he survives. He pushes NightMare back, but NightMare, he dealt the damage that he needed to do. Meanwhile, speaking of dealing damage, yo, we got some DTs being morphed in. DTs are on the way. Unfortunately, Blink hasn't been researched, unfortunately for Gerald, so that won't really be coming into play. We got cannons at the third. We got no cannons at the fourth. Oh, 1 cannon, sorry, on the way. So we'll see if these DTs can deal any damage. Honestly, it's looking unlikely, but, you know, it's pretty cute either way. Meanwhile, the disruptor shots do go off, but they do miss. NightMare on point with his stalkers, with his blink. At the same time, we got a couple of Zealots, does force a denial on the 5th base of NightMare. At the same time, DTs do walk in, but they do get pushed away by some cannons. Oh, meanwhile, it does look like Gerald did lose a couple of disruptors there. Unfortunately, he wasn't paying attention too much. He was too busy harassing everywhere, every which way. Oh, let's get 1 disruptor. Oh, actually outmaneuvers the army. Does force NightMare to respond. No, Gerald, not again. God, he keeps idling his army. Please, go home. Get out of here. See you again. Go, keep going. Stop. Gerald, please. Does lose another stalker as a result. But he confirms with the army is, yo, the flanking disruptors, show me the shots. Or will he be blinked on? Disruptors trade for disruptors. Both players, basically, their disruptor counts get reset. And who does that favor? Ah. We got one disruptor left for Gerald. Gerald, he did remake his robo. He has triple robo production going on right now. Meanwhile, NightMare, only with two robotic facilities, is only making two disruptors at a time. So Gerald will be able to make more, but we'll see if that matters because NightMare does have the greater gateway army. Oh, Gerald out of position with the majority of his stalkers. He does use his disruptor to push his army away, and he's trying to sandwich the army of NightMare. We'll see if it works out for him. As Gerald is blinking back, the Immortal does get dealt with. Meanwhile, the disruptor shots are going off. One does land, it does get two stalkers. He does back off. Meanwhile, at the same time, NightMare was trying to harass with some DTs, but there was plenty of cannons, plenty of side defense here for Gerald to push them away. Oh boy, and just like that, both players are working on Blink for their DTs. Oh boy. We'll see if that really does come into play. We'll see if any one of them goes like mass DT for mass DT harass. Meanwhile, the main armies are clashing here. Both players do have their disruptor shots available. Ooh. Zealots do manage to dodge that Purification Nova, and yo, both of these Novas are on cooldown. They do not have any shots available. But they are able to escape just barely in time. Meanwhile, Gerald was attempting to take a 6th base, but he was denied by the Zealots and DTs at the same time. The Disruptors, no! The Disruptors of Gerald were caught off guard, and now so are his Stalkers. He does just barely dodge the Purification Novas. Ay. God, he has to be careful. Another Nova going off. Ooh, almost lands. Meanwhile, we do have DTs harassing across the map, but there are DTs to defend. DT on DT action. Well, the main armies, they clash once again. Who gets the Novas up first? Oh, the focus fire. NightMare does focus down the disruptors of Gerald first, and he comes out on top in that engagement. Is that going to be enough, though? I believe there are some disruptors to defend. And NightMare, he is just pushing into this 3rd base area once again. Look at how many disruptors he has. Jesus Christ. He has so many Novas, so many shots available to him. But it doesn't even matter, mate. He doesn't even get in. Meanwhile, here we go. The mass DT harass. He blinks in, gets on top of the cannon. And now this base is dead, mate. It's gone. There's no detection. The warp-in was denied. At the same time, the main armies are clashing, but Gerald, he is able to keep his disruptors alive. And with that, as long as you have a couple of Purification Novas behind your army, you can just kind of force your opponent to stay back. But NightMare, he could be feeling pressure to attack and make something happen, just because of the amount of losses he's sustaining. And with those losses, the tech as well, the Robotics Bay goes down, the Twilight Council is under threat. Finally, we do have some detection here. Oh, but the Nexus goes down as well. Gerald, a beautiful DT harass. At the same time, we got DTs in the main base as well. Everything is getting depowered. Everything is depowered. The main Nexus almost even falling. We still got DTs in the natural. Meanwhile, the main army of NightMare does hit that 3rd base once again. Disruptor shots going off on both sides. And Gerald is being so ballsy right now. There's naked disruptors here because he's trying to flank around the army. He left his disruptors exposed, but you know what? It was worth it because he blinks on top of the disruptors of NightMare. Nice splits there. He does get the majority of the disruptors, and with that, he engulfs the main army of NightMare. And now look at the supply. Gerald was able to harass across the map, deal with the main and natural, and he was also able to dominate in the center of the map and take out the main army. Gerald, he's all over the place right now. His splits were on point. His surrounds, his decision making. Here come the Novas once again, landing with the main army. There are a couple of DTs in the middle of this, but here we go. The Observer does come in clutch, and Gerald has detection. Oh god, the detection is being dealt with, but you know what? All the DTs have been cleaned up. GG gets called, and Gerald 2-0's NightMare. Wow. GG, well played. And this is what I'm talking about. Gerald, he's popping off this year. He's looking so good. Gerald took down Max Pax and now takes down NightMare as well. And he moves on to the semifinals to face Special. I felt like that was deserving of a fanfare. That was deserving of some trumpets.